You might think a possible Hunter Greene trade would cripple the Cincinnati Reds, and you would be wrong.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. His name's Jeff Carr. We love the Cincinnati Reds. We love baseball. We love talking about the Reds. We love talking about baseball, and we love talking about those things, especially with you. On today's show, there has been some promising play out in the Arizona Fall League. We're going to check in and see how the youngsters are doing out there, including one guy that will be on the Cincinnati Reds roster in 2026. Also, I was away. Jeff played. He had lots of great shows while I was gone. And there's something I want to say about a conversation he had with Lance McAllister. We're going to get into that here in just a little bit. But where we are going to start is to dispel the idea that a trade of Hunter Greene decimates the Reds rotation, absolutely wrecks the pitching staff. It's simply not true. We're going to get into it, and we're going to get into what a potential post-Hunter Greene rotation could look like. We're going to get into that to start things off on today's episode that is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Jeff, let's get started with how this could work for the Cincinnati Reds, because it's true. Trading away the caliber of a pitcher that Hunter Greene is will have some impacts on this rotation, but it doesn't decimate it. It doesn't leave you looking around the pitcher's room wondering, well, what are they going to do now? Oh my gosh. It's very easy to find your five guys in a post Hunter Greene world. It starts with Nick Lodolo as the leader of this rotation. And we can get into a conversation about how reliable he is for a 162 game season to make his 30 starts. We can talk about that because it's a valid conversation. Following up Nick Lodolo, I wouldn't want to go back-to-back lefties. So I would throw Brady Singer in the 2 spot behind Nick Lodolo. Coming up behind him would be Andrew Abbott. Then I would throw Chase Burns. And then you've got Rhett Lowder. Those are my 5 guys. Which is a really good rotation, a really strong rotation coming out of Goodyear, coming out of opening day. And that doesn't even begin to address some of the arms that are coming back from injury, which I think is part of the answer to the question, well, can you rely on Nick Lodolo?
Exactly, because I feel like this Reds organization has built the kind of pitching depth that you would be able to trade a Hunter Greene and still be going for now, still be attempting to make the playoffs now. It's not a rebuilding move. It's not the kind of move that a lot of folks would immediately react and say, this is waving the white flag. The window of contention's done. Now, it certainly doesn't help it, but you could make a good trade in that. And I think that Nick Krall would understand that. And I don't think Nick Krall will pull the trigger on a bad trade. But at the same time, what's left over is still a really good rotation, because Nick Lodolo at times last year looked like the ace of this staff. I mean, he was worth 4.9 wins above replacement, according to Baseball Reference. So it's not as if we're talking about a meh guy. And then, of course, Andrew Abbott actually led the team in wins above replacement at 5.6. So you're still talking about almost 10 WAR between 2 guys that remain on this staff. But then you add in the fact you're getting more innings from Chase Burns. You will return Rhett Lowder, and those guys have just uber talent. And there's probably people thinking, well, but there's going to be a limit on them. Sure there is. But you also got Brandon Williamson. You also got Julian Aguiar. You've also got Chase Petty. And you've even got, because I've seen some reporting like Baseball America says that they predict a big-time breakout for pitcher Jose Franco in the Reds minor league system. So he is also a talent that people kind of have their eye on, as he could make his way to the major leagues at some point. You've got levels of talent for the pitching staff. And I think that is the thing to remember here, is that as much as we have said we would prefer Brady Singer get traded over Hunter Greene, if you trade Hunter Greene, it's not as if, oh, that's the nail in the coffin, the Reds are done.
No, as a matter of fact, it's the opposite, Jeff, because you have to look at it that Nick Krall's not going to trade Hunter Greene for a bunch of prospects that are going to single A. A trade of Hunter Greene will bring back a bona fide major league power hitter. It just has to. There's no other reason to make that trade.
Levels of
There's
talent.
no other reason to do that. You trade away a guy that's really, really good when he's in the rotation, and you bring back a guy that in your hopes plays 150 games and hits 35, 40 home runs at Great American Ballpark. That's the guy you're going out there to get. And in addition to that guy, you're getting some prospects that'll sit down in the minor leagues and cook and add to your team for years to come. Hunter Greene's going to bring a big return if you do trade him. Now, they're not required to trade him. They're not locked in on trading him. There's no reason that if the market is not what Nick Krall thinks it should be, that Hunter Greene's not your opening day starter. And well, you've still got a phenomenal rotation and you've got an ace guy starting opening day for the Reds. So either way, the Reds can win. They can win by having Hunter Greene in this rotation and hope that everybody continues to develop and that other things fall into place, or they trade away Hunter Greene. They have a strong rotation anyway, and they win by addressing those needs that we've been talking about since the season ended. The bullpen, the power hitter, the outfield, all of the things we know this team needs can be addressed with this Hunter Greene trade. So the Reds will be better in either scenario, whether it's Hunter Greene and you get more starts out of him, or you've traded him and you filled all those holes. Either way, the team is better in 2026 than it was in 2025.
Yeah, I reject a notion that just because you trade Hunter Greene and it does not matter what the return is you get back, your team got worse. Because I don't believe, like what Nick Krall said that began this whole cycle was not, yes, we're shopping Hunter Greene around. We're making sure that somebody wants this guy by the end of October or by the end of November. We're going to throw him away and get nothing for him. That's not what he said. He didn't even really say, yes, Hunter Greene is available. Please give me a call at da-da-da-da-da. He basically just said, no, we're not saying no, but we're also not saying yes. But, you know, whatever, this is a business, blah, 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 blah. He gave you the GM speak of not giving you an answer. And so that's kind of where we started to roll. And a lot of people started to roll with this rumor. And to look at it and say that, you know, it's a win-lose scenario. You win if you keep him, you lose if you trade him, is just a very, very 2D way of looking at this. There's a 3D angle, and we are looking at the 3D angle here because the pitching staff is so strong when you look at who remains, and then conceivably the guys that you could bring back, if it's, you know, that Boston trade that we had mentioned of Duran, the password, and Stinson Garcia, and Peyton Tolle, who is a top pitching prospect in Major League Baseball, then you're really cooking with gas if you turn one guy into those three.
I want you guys to know.
Thing. Yeah.
Right. And I want you guys to know that get into the comment section and you wonder whether or not we read every single comment and we process it. We do, because I saw you guys in the comment sections yesterday asking, why are we even talking about this? Why are we talking about this Hunter Greene trade? Because Jim Bowden said something? Jim Bowden's crazy. Well, it's not because Jim Bowden said something. Jim Bowden piggybacked off of Mark Sheldon asking the question. Mark Sheldon, who covers this team, who follows this team, Mark Sheldon had to have heard something to go to Nick Krall and say, hey, are you looking to trade Hunter Greene? That's how it works, folks. When the beat writer has it first, when the beat writer is the one to float this idea, they heard something. So,
and it's not like he asked about Nick Lodolo.
Yeah.
He didn't ask about Nick Lodolo. He didn't ask. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not running with this because Jim Bowden was trying to fill some time for the Nationals. No, this started off with Mark Sheldon asking a very specific question about a specific player. You're absolutely right, Jeff. He didn't ask about what starting pitchers are you looking to move? What would you be willing to give up off the major league roster? No, he said, are you looking to trade Hunter Greene? So that tells me Mark Sheldon heard something. And I think that's why we're spending so much time talking about this, is because in my mind, it makes it credible when you take all the things over the last couple years and a beat writer asking that specific question. It lends credibility for me, and it makes me want to at least ponder what that would look like for this ball club as it moves through the offseason.
There's smoke, right? I think that people want to ignore it when they don't like it. And I think most people would hate the idea of trading Hunter Greene. But I think it's important to note that there are positive outcomes, assuming that the right moves are made and the right decisions are made in this case. But at the same time, like, I think it's kind of funny that people are trying to completely ignore this. People would rather talk about Kyle Schwarber. And you know how much smoke there is around the idea of Kyle Schwarber coming to Cincinnati? Mark Sheldon hadn't asked anybody about that. See, Trent Rosecrans hadn't asked anybody. Nobody's asked anybody about that. There might be a Cole like the size of my pinky, and I got small fingers. So there might be like the little tiny Cole that's giving off like a little bit of smoke or something, like just a tiny little bit. But there's a whole lot more smoke on this side when it comes to the possibility of trading Hunter Greene. That's why we're focusing so much on it.
Absolutely. And to the Kyle Schwarber thing, that's clearly one of those deals where Nick Krall will be able to say, oh, we checked in with Kyle Schwarber, and Kyle Schwarber's people will give Nick Krall a number, and Nick Krall will be like, I didn't even know numbers went that high. And that's going to be the end of the checking in on Kyle Schwarber.
We checked in on him and we started to talk about numbers, and then all of a sudden we found ourselves discussing whether we like the chicken chili at Skyline Chili or not. Like, that's what's going to happen. So there's definitely a lot more coming from this, and we will be all over any more reporting or any more added rumors that get any more smoke that gets added to these possible Hunter Greene trade rumors. But let's move to what you had in mind, because I know that it relates to Nick Krall and it relates to the front office, because it's a conversation that Lance and myself had, and a question that you came away with, because when it comes to trust in the front office, well, I mean, come on.
The NFL season is in full swing, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium, surrounded by fans, cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between the queues, the login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's very, very frustrating. That's why I use Game Time. That's why Jeff uses Game Time. The app gives you the advantage. The fan. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. Jeff and I use this all the time during baseball season. We get down to the banks, we post up, we have something to eat, we have something to drink close to game time, we grab our tickets, we head in. But it's not just for baseball, folks. It's not just for the NFL. They've got college tickets too. You want to go check out the Buckeyes, OH baby. You want to go see those Bearcats. They're having a pretty good year too. Jeff's probably rolling his eyes somewhere right now. You can get those tickets on Game Time as well. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms do apply. But again, just download that Game Time app, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
Thank you for making Locked On Reds part of your everyday routine. If you're an everydayer, you're awesome, and that means that you hit that subscribe button. If you're not an everydayer, hit the subscribe button here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app. We're free and available everywhere you get your podcast. And yes, the Bearcats are having a pretty good year, and I'm talking a lot more about that over on Locked On Bearcats, as the Bearcats are headed for a possible Big 12 championship, although they got a heck of a test this week against Utah. If you're a Bearcats fan, go check out Locked On Bearcats. I'd appreciate it if you did.
They're all right.
All right, Steve. Lance and I were talking about this, and even Mo and I talked about this a little bit after our conversation about Elly De La Cruz, but it's the question that follows the main questions. There are a couple of main questions that surround this team, right? Is Hunter Greene getting traded? Is Elly De La Cruz a shortstop? Are they going to get a power hitter? The next step in all of those questions are, do you trust the Reds to make the right move? And it starts with Nick Krall. It also includes Terry Francona. It includes everybody. But throughout our lifetimes, we can answer that. But moving forward, do we feel the same way?
This was a very interesting question. And the question that you and Lance kicked back and forth was, do you trust Nick Krall to make these moves to take advantage of the Reds now being in this open window? Do you trust Nick Krall in the front office to go get a bopper? Do you trust Nick Krall in the front office to fix the bullpen and do the things? And we see this also down the street in the Dora. If you look at Paycor Stadium, houses an office for a guy who carries the title of general manager, whose job is not really to build a winner, and whose job is not tied to their performance and the results that we see on the field. God help us what we saw on the field last weekend against the frickin' New York Jets. But that guy's job is not tied to the team's performance. He's immune to it. I'm sad to say, and we're going to spend some time talking about this week, Jeff, because the way that baseball works in the city of Cincinnati now is different than how it's ever worked before, and it's different than how it works in a lot of other cities right now, because Nick Krall's job is not tied to him taking this 82-win team and pushing it to be a 90-win team. Nick Krall's job is not tied to, well, you made the playoffs as a wild card, you better win the division this year. His job is not tied to that. His job is tied to putting a product on the field that can be in the conversation for a playoff spot, and so that Bob and Phil make money. That's Nick Krall's job description, and he is nailing it. He is crushing it. If you sat Phil Castellini down right now, we could pop him up on the screen and be like, hey, Phil, how you doing? Listen, how would you categorize the 2025 season? He would be like, it was a smashing success. We're having a great year. That's how the ownership group looks at what the Reds did last season. They were in the conversation all year long. They got a lot of national buzz. They made the playoffs. Bob and Phil made their money. They won. That was a home run for the Castellini family. And Nick Krall, he's not on a hot seat. He's not feeling any pressure. His job is to keep this team relevant in playoff conversation. And he can do that with a few small moves. And it's not the Kyle Schwarbers, and it's not going out and having a press conference signing of a free agent. It's just continuing to stay in the 85 win neighborhood. Just be above 500. And now, that's not to say that he's not going to try. And we've talked about it with things he could do with Hunter Greene. And we've talked about time and time again what he presented as his vision for continuing to keep the Reds relevant. It wasn't building postseason winners. It wasn't building a new dynasty of World Series after World Series. What he talked about doing was keeping this roster competitive, which was the Tampa model, which is trade guys away as they're running out of control, bring in new guys, continue to restock, and do that thing to keep this team in the conversation. The Hunter Greene trade lines up with that, but he also has an opportunity to take advantage of the window. So sometimes things are going to align where he can build a better team, but there's absolutely no expectation on Nick Krall to put a 90-win team on the field. Nobody in that front office is thinking that way. Nobody in that ownership group is thinking that way.
Well, and let's even take it a step further, because there's evidence to this, and it's not as if they've come out and said it, but let's take everything into account here. It is clear that the main goal for the front office of the Cincinnati Reds is to take a budget spreadsheet and make sure that it's in the black rather than in the red. And then whatever else happens after that is gravy.
Because well, you know how we know that's true? You know how we know that's true is Phil Castellini showed the spreadsheet to the Rosy Reds. That's absolutely what happened.
That's true. He did actually come out and say it. But also, I believe this, had he not left of his own accord, Dick Williams would still be the president of baseball operations for this team, but he left 100%. Of his own accord because this is the mandate. It is not Dick Williams wanted to build a winner. Dick Williams wanted to make this team a 90-win ball club, a division contender year in and year out. And they said, but will that involve us going into the red at any point? And he said, I don't care about that. And that is my assertion as to what happened. That's not exactly how.
And we're going to spend a lot of time picking that apart, folks. Put a little ping in that. Put a pin in what Jeff just said, because there's an episode coming later this week. We're going to really dissect what Jeff just said.
There's layers to that onion, and this is the top layer. We'll definitely unpeel some more layers, actually, I believe, on tomorrow's show. But when it comes to how Nick Krall is operating, he is absolutely 100% in the bullseye of the target of what Bob and Phil have set up for him. So yes, as much as we complain and as much as we question whether or not he's going to make the necessary moves, he's already made the necessary moves in their minds.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I think it's really hard to argue it any other way. There's really no way to look at how this team operates and come away with a different conclusion. Now, people are probably saying, well, then why do you follow this team? Why cheer for this team? Why go to the ballpark? Why do things? Look, it's still a fun team. It's a fun team to watch. There's a lot of talent, a lot of youth, a lot of cool baseball players to follow and keep track of. Also, Nick Krall and the Castellini family are not going to thief my joy of being at Great American Ballpark. I love being down there and just watching baseball. And the Reds have the potential to make the postseason in this new modern era of playoff format. So that's fun to watch too. So it's all about layers. If you're only in it, if this team's not going to win 90 to 100 games, I'm out. I can respect that. I get that. And I get you wanting to jump and go be a Dodgers fan or a Giants fan or a New York Mets fan or whoever's spending the most money fan. I get it. But for me, I grew up on this team. I love this team. I love that ballpark. I love the energy of being down there at the Banks. And, it's fun baseball to follow. Now, I don't want multiple years of 50-win baseball, but I kind of can accept that they're going to be battling for a playoff spot, not necessarily a division title.
But we understand the assignment, right? Like that means that we know they're not going to go out and sign Kyle Schwarber and Alex Bregman and Pete Alonso and bring those guys in. They are going to look for the moves that fall within the black but make them competitive enough while also making them financially viable enough. That is the balancing act that Nick Krall has to do, and that is the thing that he has done the best during his tenure in the front office. It's not as if he has willingly sabotaged this team to lose. It is that he has been given a budget to operate within, and he is doing what he can within that budget, within his constraints. He's just never going to go outside that. As much as you might want him to, that is not part of his job description, because the moment that he does that is the moment that he gets placed on the hot seat.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, we're gonna do an Aloha Friday live on Friday afternoon. Breaking news: we're doing a live on Friday afternoon, guys. But I can guarantee you, when we get into the comments and when we get into the questions, a lot of people are gonna want to talk about Kyle Schwarber. They're gonna want to talk about Pete Alonso. They're gonna want to talk about. I'm happy to talk about it, but I can't put a straight face on and try and convince you, the listeners and the viewers, that there is a realm of possibility where we're having a press conference with Nick Krall and Kyle Schwarber holding up a jersey at Great American Ballpark.
It would shock me. I would go into shock.
Listen, I would not know how to react to it. I can't see a lane for something like that to happen. And I want to be realistic about it, because
and Nick, if you want to take that as a dare, then please go ahead.
Yeah, we double dog dare you to sign.
Double dog dare.
All right, listen, Jeff. As we don't want this to be bleak. It's not bleak, folks.
Right.
There's lots of reasons to continue to be excited about this franchise, this entire system of baseball players, and we're going to talk about some of them because there is some promise playing out in Arizona right now. If you can't watch us here on YouTube, guess what? We're in every single audio podcasting app pretty much that exists. Go find us there, click subscribe, get us an audio form. You can take us to the gym, take us in the car, take us on the road, take us on your jog. We're happy to go along with you wherever you need us to be. All right, Jeff, let's get into this, because as depressing as that last segment was, there is some excitement brewing. There is some talent in the minor leagues. There's a lot of promise coming along for this franchise, and some of them are being showcased out in the Arizona Fall League right now. And there's one guy who is working his way back from injury that will absolutely be part of the Reds 2026 plans.
Yeah, let's start with him, because he's the most important player currently out pitching for the Peoria Javelinas. That is Rhett Lowder. Rhett Lowder has been pitching. He has made 3 starts. Each start he's pitched about 2 innings. I think the last start he pitched the most pitches. It was into like the 60 pitch range, but he's done such a good job with control. He has 6 strikeouts in those 6 innings compared to 0 walks. And there have been no reports of discomfort. There have been no reports of, well, they got to push this start back, or he can't do this or something like that. And quite frankly, that is the biggest thing, because as we mentioned, even if Hunter Greene's not traded, I still think Rhett Lowder is pushing for a rotation spot and one of the favorites to be one of the guys in the opening day rotation. And it's good to see him feeling good and pitching out in Arizona.
Yeah, I don't underestimate the importance of these innings that he's logging out in Arizona right now. And there's a crowd that's like, well, that's what he should do. He should go dominate those guys in Arizona. Yeah, you're right. And the fact that he's doing it is important, because he's out there right now working on, do I recover the next day? How do I feel after I've pitched? Does my arm loosen up the way that it's supposed to? Do I feel the pitches in my hand the way that I should be? Do I have the command? Do I have the control? Am I able to do what I want to do? And the answer to all those questions right now are, yeah, he's doing great. And that's important, because now he gets through this fall league. He's had a little bit of success. He kind of spins it back down for just a little bit and then begins a normal offseason program getting ready for spring training in Goodyear. I think these innings right now are really, really important for Rhett Lowder.
And in case you've forgotten, because I've missed being able to talk about Rhett Lowder. Rhett Lowder is one of my favorite pitchers to talk about, favorite types of pitchers to talk about, at least, because he is a smart pitcher, very cerebral. He understands the strategy of how to get a batter out. He understands the strategy of how to limit an opposing lineup. He's a guy that ever since he was drafted, we've talked about the fact that he has had to pitch since high school. He's never been a thrower. He's not a guy that's just going to rear back, throw 100 miles an hour, and just blow it past you. He's going to be a guy that outthinks you. And so I love watching pitchers like that. I love talking about pitchers like that. So I'm really happy to see that he's looking healthy and good, and he'll be good to go on a regular timeline once spring training gets going, because I think he's going to be an important pitcher for them next year.
Totally agree. And, this is not the only guy out there. I want to talk about somebody else that was out there, and I was really excited to see him out there, and it ended prematurely. But, our catcher apparent, I guess, the guy that we're waiting on in Duno went out to Arizona and was having some success, but a leg injury shut him down early. I'm not really discouraged by that. I would like to have seen him be healthy through the fall league, but looking at his body of work, I think he's due to move up a level when we get through spring training. He's going to move up in the minor leagues. He's still on track to kind of be where the Reds need him to be. It is getting close to go time for him to jump a level. So I'm glad he got a little bit of extra work, get him through an off season, get him back to spring training, get him moving forward.
That's the important thing, the extra work part of this. This is not like they send him out to Arizona and they are like keying in on their box score and making sure that they have specific statistics around it. This is just about them seeing more pitches and playing more innings and getting more work out in the field and all those different things. And I think there's part of it that helps accelerate a player's development, but not to the point that like, well, he was in Arizona, he's getting called up next year. That's not what we're talking about here, but it's definitely going to help his overall development down the road. And I'm with you. The fact if he doesn't play again in Arizona, which I don't think he will, like the injury wasn't super serious at initial reporting, but they don't like report on injuries in the Arizona Fall League like they report on injuries during the Major League Baseball regular season. So it's not as if we're hearing an up to the moment update here, but being taken out of game, I can assume he's not going to play again out in Arizona. But there have been a couple of guys that have played really well in Leo Balcazar and Cam Collier. Cam Collier really started off a lot more hot than he is now, although his on-base percentage is still in the Joey Votto range at .418. But his slugging percentage is dipped down.
You heard it here first. Jeff just said Cam Collier is going to be the next Joey Votto. That's what I heard.
Well, but also Leo Balcazar actually has a higher on-base percentage. So actually Leo Balcazar is Joey Votto. No, I take that back. That's multiple Joey Vottos in the Arizona Fall League now that the Reds have.
Settle down. But no, it's good to see that success from those guys too. And listen, something that Jeff, something you just said, I want to emphasize again. Neither one of those guys are going to be in the Reds 2026 plans. So this is development. This is to get them going. I could see Cam Collier AA, AAA over the 2026
maybe
season.
Like second half of the year he pushes for,
but I don't see him. Yeah. Don't see him on the big league roster in 2026. Same with Balcazar. So good showings though. This is good. Again, it's extra work. It's extra at bats. It's extra pitches. It's just extra in the development. And I'm excited to see these Reds youngsters having some success out there.
And I think there's about 3 weeks left, including they have like a couple of games like Arizona League playoffs and stuff like that. So there's still some time left for them to get in more work, and we'll kind of give you like a final look in a few weeks to see how they're doing here. But I have liked that. There's also some other pitchers that, to be honest with you, I don't know much about. I know Kevin Abel has pitched 1 game. He is a Reds minor league pitcher who is out there. We've also seen Jonathan Harmon, who is a Reds minor leaguer who's out there. He's pitched in a couple of games, not looking so great though. 8 strikeouts to 6 walks. And just overall, like these guys are just getting in the work. They're doing the things. Trevor Kunkel out there as well. Again, 9 strikeouts, 5 walks. Really would like to see a little bit better from that. But he is a guy that there's been some Doug Gray and our friend, wow.
You all right over there?
Just forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, folks who know a lot more about the Reds minor leagues than we do really have keyed in on Trevor Kunkel as a guy.
Like their names. They know their names.
Boy, this is Tuesday, huh? This is Tuesday.
Whoo, Jeff. You've been working too hard, and that is where we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today, folks. Thanks, as always, for making Locked On Reds your first listen each and every day. We really appreciate it. Go check out the Locked On MLB channel. Sully's over there doing a great coverage, giving you a national perspective as the World Series begins to come to an end. Sully will have you covered. Baseball MLB game night is happening over there too, all the way through the end of the World Series. Go check those guys out for your second listen. Until next time, we'll keep gathering up the news, the notes, the rumors, the reports, and the information, and bring it right back here to keep you Locked On Reds every single day.
7 years and I finally trip over a name and forget what I'm saying. Oh boy.
It's usually me with the names. Like, I'm the one that struggles with the names.
Got to make sure we get it tomorrow. Slump cannot accrue.